Hey, welcome in. I'm Rita, and this is the story I'm telling myself. If you've ever felt like you're standing in your own way, you are not alone. Let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of the Story I'm Telling Myself podcast. I'm your host, Rita Ernst, and I am so excited. I've been looking forward to this conversation because somebody that I adore, who has been a friend and a supporter of me for years, Tiffany Cardwell, is with us today. And we are going to talk about committing professional suicide. And I know that you are going to want to be a part of this conversation. So if you're already here with us for the live recording, welcome. You know I love you. You know I appreciate the strong support that you give to the story I'm telling myself. And we love having your questions and your comments and your stories and insights. So come on over. Welcome our guest, Tiffany. Welcome our other friends. I see Gary from the UK is with us already. Gary has had two. He was my first recurring guest. He's been with me since season 1 last year, and his episodes are hot. You really need to check those out. We have Haley Cardwell with us. Welcome, Haley. And as people are popping in and saying hello, Tiffany, I'm going to hand the mic to you. Please tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Rita. Super excited to be here today. I know we've been planning this for quite a bit of time, and I was traveling for a bit. So thanks for helping accommodate, and excited to talk to you today. My name is Tiffany Cardwell. I have been in the human resources field for 30 plus years. Several organizations all throughout, started in Chicago with TransUnion, which is part of the Marmon Group of companies, and love the international HR work as well. And then moved to Louisville about 26 years ago, believe it or not. In 2000, yes, Y2K was when we moved this way, and started at Humana. Then I was at Papa John's for about 10 years, and then Signature Healthcare. And then most recently, MCM, or Mount Joy Chilton Medley, which is now part of the Cherry Becker team. So, and very recently, in the last 3 years now, started my own consulting firm called Simply Cardwell Group, Inc.
Yes, which is a very exciting chapter in your life. You beat me to Louisville by about 2 years. We showed up in January of 2003, and yeah, that's right, January 2003. And Tiffany and I worked together at Humana. So, hey, Christy, great to have you with us. So, Tiffany,
Yes.
we're going to talk about committing professional suicide, because this was this internal conversation that you were living with, that you were reconciling, even as we had our initial planning meeting at the beginning of this year, when I reached out to you and said, hey, season 2 is coming, you got to come be a guest. You were still really in the throes of it. So you've evolved even further to this point today. But walk our listeners back. Let's bring them up to speed so they can be in this conversation with us. Tell them a little bit about what your professional suicide is about.
Sure. Well, really about 3 years back is when all of this started. Unfortunately, my dad suffered a stroke. He's since passed. We just celebrated his 1 year passing in the Philippines with the entire family. So that was so wonderful and such a blessing. And started this journey partly because I was thinking, gosh, how am I going to be able to spend the time I need to spend with him and my mom as we are making sure he's healing, progressing well with everything. And so I really do think things happen for a reason. And at the time, I was with Mount Joy Chilton Medley, great organization, family oriented, and they were merging with Cherry Becker and being part of a much larger group. And so I think from a timing perspective, It turned out really well. I had to really think through, does this make sense? And the transition happened then, 3 years back, and I started my own group, and it all just worked out well. Spent the last few years caregiving for both him, and my mom's pretty independent, so she's 85, but live as can be.
Yeah,
So
well, I know going through my dad's cancer journey, and he's been gone. He left in September of 24 is when he passed. I would go back every third week. So, I'd be 2 weeks home and then I would go back, and kind of followed his cancer regime. I would come the week after he got chemo when he was sort of at his lowest, but not just for him, Tiffany. I mean, the caregiver, my stepmother as the caregiver, I felt like she needed me there to give a break and support. It's a lot to
mhm.
carry all of that by yourself. And so I know that your mom felt just as supported by you, as even though she's a very independent and capable woman in that time, as your dad did.
Yes, and I will tell you, I've had these conversations with so many friends, colleagues, family members. A lot of us are in the same boat right now, honestly. And so you want to give the care that your parents or loved ones need. And it's difficult because you've got to balance the work situation and making sure you've still got that coming through, not only from a financial standpoint, but just for your own sanity as well. So
I
I,
just have to say, hey, Michelle.
oh, hi, Michelle. Hi, Lede.
Yeah, Ladea. We have lots of new people joining us. Jose, Elias. Thank you guys for showing up. There's one other thing that all of these friends of Tiffany know that I want to make sure all of our listeners understand. And that is, Tiffany's not just a 9 to 5 girl. Tiffany is a consummate professional. And yes, she does her 9 to 5, and it's probably more like 9 to 6. Hey, Sharon, I see you. Or not, or more. I mean, she gives whatever time is required. But here's the thing you have to understand. Tiffany gives to the community. She's on boards. She's active in the chamber. She shows up at everybody's function and supports her friends and her colleagues. She shows up and supports them. So she was living this very vibrant, very filled, very time filled life of being available in her business community. And we all love and appreciate Tiffany because of this way that she has always showed up. And so what I want to say is, yes, you were finding a path forward, but internally, given that context that I just said, there was also a story that you were telling yourself. And I think it's important that you say that out loud to listeners. So share a little bit about how that internal critic voice was showing up for you during this transition time when you were exiting your regular job and trying to set up your new organization, and then trying to take on the caregiver responsibilities.
Yeah, it is definitely a story I tell myself over and over again to this day. And thank you. That's very kind of you to share that, Rita. I don't talk about it a lot, but I do love to give back to this community, not only in Louisville, but worldwide with different organizations, and not only professionally, but personally. There are a lot of groups that I'm part of because it does give back. And honestly, that's one of the things I always share with others as I get a lot of breakfast, lunch, dinner calls, just getting together. It's a strange market out there right now. And so, some roles very difficult to fill. And so there are a lot of people looking for opportunities or wanting to start their own. And so I try to also give back in that way. But some of it stems back from my mom, who volunteered quite a bit while we were growing up. And I saw that example. I still remember her. We were in Florida. She would take us to Moose Haven, which was a retirement community. And she actually sang opera and played piano. So she's an amazing performer. And that's where I get my love of arts. And so she would show us here are the things you can do in the community from early on. And I think that's part of what I've kind of built, not intentionally, really, just because I enjoy it. That's really why each organization that I give back to, there's a reason, whether it's a close friend, whether it's a family member that has passed or has had difficulty with a health issue. I'm trying to be better about not always doing everything, but I enjoy it so much. So I do give back in doing that. But again, like what you had talked about, story I'm telling myself, I constantly tell myself, what, should I go do this, community event in the middle of trying to make sure I've got clients that I'm working with and all of that? And honestly, the answer is always going to be yes in my mind.
Well, I remember when we had our conversation at the beginning of the year. So you were a little ways down the path of starting your business, but it takes a lot. Any entrepreneurs out there, jump in and affirm this. It takes a lot to build and grow and sustain a business, a consulting practice, especially. And again, you are deeply rooted in this community. You have a lot of connections, but you have to, you told yourself the story that, is I got to show up. I got to put myself out there. I got to be present. That's going to keep the business coming to me. Right. But at the same time, you want to, you want to be at these appointments with your dad. You want to do these things. And you found yourself in this challenge of, there's only so much time in a day. And what am I going to say yes to? And the story I interpreted that you were telling yourself is that you were committing some professional suicide if you backed off at all at the level of play that you had historically been bringing. Like there was no, like that was the path you needed to show up that way, and to not do that was professional suicide. I'm not putting words in your mouth. I mean, that was really kind of the hidden story back there, right?
Exactly. And again, I know there are so many probably on this call or who will be watching this call that are very driven. We wouldn't be in the roles we're in right now. And you want to do 110%, whatever it is, whether it is volunteering, whether it's professional, any assignments that are out there. And I have been in the last, I'd say, year or so, much better and being more selective around some of that involvement. And I found in many areas, you can step back and be emeritus or mentor. I continue to mentor at all different levels of careers, and it's still okay. I keep repeating to the groups that I work with, I don't need to be on the board. I don't officially need to be on the committee. I will still help you, but I want to make sure if I'm committing, I will be there when meetings happen. I will be there when events are going to be there. And with the travels that we've been doing recently, I knew I couldn't do that with a lot of play. I still make it
Right.
as much as
Yeah.
possible.
And it's something that we have in common, and it's actually interesting. Michelle's been getting the Humana group together, and I haven't gotten there. But
Yeah.
one of the common characteristics of the people that we worked together at Humana with is that dependability. If you sign up, if you put your name on something, you follow through. And I just want to share some of the comments that are coming through real quick. So Elias says that Tiffany shows up as an immigrant in a small business. She brought women to support and lift his business. And that the community appreciates her. So just an example of what we're talking about. Gail is a good friend of the show. She's been on. I'm trying to get her back for season 3 coming up next year. But being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. And Elias says he transitioned from corporate. It's terrifying. It's still terrifying. And so we all, feel that a little bit. And I remember in January when we spoke, you told me a story about your friends reaching out to you. So the other story that you were telling yourself was you were really struggling a little bit with, they were offering help and
Yes.
accepting their help, and not feeling like you were burdening them with what you felt like you were your responsibilities. Do you
Oh,
remember us
it's so
talking about that?
difficult. I remember when we were talking in January, and I did send you an email later, and I said, Rita, I am just not in the space right now.
Yes.
Around everything. There was a lot going on. My dad had just passed, and you don't even realize how much there is that you have to cope with. So, if anything, those friends, colleagues that reached out to help, I appreciated it so much. And I do try to make sure to get back, as much as possible to everyone. But everyone was very kind, and knowing that I'm just not going to be able to get back there. But I understand and appreciate that support. And that's really helped quite a bit with different projects. And again, because of the work that I'm not able to do regularly, I was afraid, and this is where the suicide part, comes into play. I was afraid, who's gonna want to hire me to do things? Well, honestly, there are little projects and little things. Maybe a training. It might be something where, gosh, they've got a team already working on something. They need some expertise. And with 30 plus years in the HR and operations industry, whether it's a merger and acquisition or any type of policy compliance, those type of things. It just, I think, gives them that reassurance. Someone who's been in, top tier organizations, small, medium, large organizations, has done consulting as well as corporate, has really helped them with that. And every time, it doesn't matter, small, medium, large projects, I love them all because I see the impact that I'm able to give back. And that's where the suicide piece feels a little better every time.
Yes, but you did, the one piece of suicide that you had to commit was letting go of this identity that you had of how you had to show up and be. And
Yeah.
so you, with the passing of your father and all the steps along the journey, you were not the same person
No.
today that you were at the beginning of this journey. Talk about some of those things that those mindset challenges that you really had to like just cut it off and say, I'm just not going to hold on to that anymore. What were the things that you chose to cut out of how you defined your roles and responsibilities as a business owner?
Oh, sure. And I mean, if anything, we talked about overcommitment, and I will overcommit. But I will, if I commit though to you, it will get done. However, I had to step back and say, okay, what are the main key things? I had to be super intentional, especially a year ago when my dad was going through the process of, hospice was fabulous with helping us transition and making sure. And again, a lot of people wait until the last minute to call them. They should actually call the minute care is happening because they will help you with that transition at the end, and it goes so much more smoothly. But I had to really think about what are the groups that I'll give back to and how much time. And in the
Right,
past, I
right.
would just say yes pretty easily to things. And now I'm getting much better at saying no, but I will always, help contribute to an auction or something else around that if I have, that opportunity. And so my husband just retired in April. And so the other thing I want to make sure is to be able to travel and give myself some mindfulness, some peace. It all ties into wellness as a whole that you need to make sure you give yourself because
So,
yeah,
so one of the things that I'm going to just name this very clearly is letting go of this idea of you have to work this intensity of
yes,
hours and commitments, that the doing part of, you've got to be doing all the time. And you are now giving yourself permission and a place to say, no, I'm allowed to have rest.
Yes.
I'm allowed to have recovery time. I'm allowed to only take small projects and say, that is enough.
Exactly, exactly. And it's tough. It's really tough. And I am sure many of you right now who are part of this um, session are thinking to yourself, yep, I do that quite a bit. You just can't help it. And you know what? That's what I love as well, is seeing these friendships and these relationships that I've made through the years, and some of which, I mean, Alex, who just made a comment there, we just probably just in the last couple of years met each other, but it's exciting to see him be able to start his own business, be able to do the creative piece of what he loves and is passionate about. And I love being a part of that. So, again, some of it's timing, some of it's just that balance. But honestly, so much of it too are those foundations that you build in getting to know people. Not from a hey, this is going to be a client perspective. It is truly getting to know them. And when I do attend some of these events, and I don't feel like that stress is as high as it was in the very beginning. I mean, don't, I know, I think it was Gail
Well,
that said,
here's can I
yeah,
offer this
yeah,
analogy, and feel
yeah.
free to reject it, but the visual I have to describe where you are at this stage in your life and career is you are this beautiful apple tree. You have very deep roots. You are a very strongly nourished tree in the community, and it is bearing beautiful fruit. And a lot of that fruit is just right there, and it's accessible. And this idea that you've got to work as hard today as you did in 2000,
Mhm.
26 years ago, is one of the stories that you have to let go of,
Yeah,
because you have 25 years of that foundation that you've built, of all of that energy that you've put into those relationships, and holding on to this story that you have to keep generating that energy instead of recognizing, oh, the fruit's right there, all I have to do is reach up and pluck it. that's
exactly.
a big that's a big change.
Yeah, it is because I'm very self sufficient. And I always tell people this throughout my career. I don't have to have a big title. That is not what I'm all about. I want the project to be interesting. I want it to be impactful. I want people to learn and be able to then take that on. So that's part of where the consulting piece is a joy to do, because I'm not there for a long term, but it's enough to help them step forward in the right direction. And I
Yes, yes.
say the other piece, relationship wise, so important is your own family, right? My husband, Sean, amazing from a base perspective, because if you've got to have some of that.
Yes, you
Then
do.
my
Absolutely.
two kids, Haley's on, I think, right now, and my son, Ryan, as they grow, I want them to be able to take away from all of this and really find the passion in the work they do and in the things they get involved with. And I think we can all continue to give back in that manner, in any way that we can. But that's a great analogy of, because when I'm rooted around that. And as you know, right now I'm in my sorority's annual conference for Gamma Phi, and I was doing flowers this morning, and again, you find the little things that help you get to where you need to go, and just be more selective. I
So would
definitely.
you say that you have a different relationship to the harmony of work and life today than you did prior to this journey with your dad?
Oh, no question. And I took all of the things I learned from the organizations that I work with, one of which I would say probably Signature Healthcare. I learned the most because you had to be a certified nursing assistant to be at a leadership level there. And all of that work as a CNA, we don't appreciate enough, especially in caring for our loved ones. It is an amazing certification and one that I would take over and over again because now I help, not only for my parents, but for friends' parents as well.
So, if you were going to summarize it in 2 or 3 sentences to help a listener who is thinking, they're hearing this, they're hearing all these little nuggets that we're dropping, that you are allowed to let go of the grind mentality. You're allowed to harvest the fruits of labor that you have put in and shift your energy in different ways. What would be the 2 or 3 key things that you would share with people based on your experience and walking this journey with your dad about the little shifts that they might be able to make to help them redefine a relationship, a more harmonizing relationship between work and life that gives them this level of freedom and fulfillment that they desire?
Sure, that's a great question. I mean, one of which is, I would say, really trust yourself. That is a huge piece. Believe in yourself, trust in yourself that you can do this. Most of us have probably had varying careers and in different areas and walks of life that we've fallen into. Embrace it and move on. You can do this. As difficult as it is, um, that faith in yourself and others as well is going to help carry you moving forward. The second piece is from a financial standpoint, plan, plan, plan. I cannot say that enough. To do a consulting organization is not easy. There are a lot of challenges that come into play, and it is constantly a development piece, not only from a learning perspective, but from the perspective of gaining new clients, building that trust again. So having that foundation and saving early, especially for those of you that are, just starting out, looking at this as much as you can put away, still important to be able to do that. And then the third piece is just continue to foster those relationships that you have had throughout the years, and be intentional about those relationships and make sure that the ones that you're most passionate about are the ones that you're focused on. Because you can be focused in so many areas, but really, which ones give you joy and to be
Mhm.
able to, give back. And I was going to say, I have a fourth one, which is just have some faith. It doesn't matter what religion anyone is or what beliefs anyone has, but that faith in something will help carry you through to
Well,
whatever it
and
is you're trying to
and
do.
I would add one more that just based on our
Yeah.
conversation, I know I said 3, which is accept the help. And
Yes.
don't be afraid to ask for it. I
Yeah.
teach in my leadership course, one of the foundational things that I teach every leader is the emotional bank account. The
Yeah.
fact that you have to build relationship capital. It's important. It's important in your personal life as much as it is in your professional life. But in your professional life, having relationship capital matters. And that means making deposits on the regular in that relationship account with people around you. And the reason you want to give so much attention, and I taught this in Show Up Positive as well, is I consider it your rainy day fund.
Hmm.
So when you're in a season like Tiffany was in, with the care of her father, when you need to draw on those relationships, when you actually need to make withdrawals and you have limited opportunity to make deposits, your account balance is so high, nobody feels like you're taking advantage of them. You're
Right.
just spending down that relationship capital a little bit, and that's okay. It's
Mhm.
fine to, it's fine. It's fine to do that. And people, when they see you in need, they are more than happy to meet you and be helping to you in that time.
Oh, 100%. I thank everyone that has called, emailed, texted. Of course, my favorite is seeing them in person as much as possible because that personal touch, again, as much as I love using AI in many ways, especially with consulting, and if you are starting your own and not using it, big mistake. You've got to use it. It is so much more efficient, but it's still you looking at what it is that AI is putting together. So remember, don't lose your own, self confidence in knowing your brand yourself. That's probably a big piece as well. But yeah, no, I mean it's been very challenging, but also exciting to do the things that I'm able to do. Sometimes with clients I've had for a long time, sometimes it is new clients. So it's you know, it's been a nice journey so far. And I know it's continuing to evolve. And again, just don't give up. Sometimes it just takes one client to get you through that finish line. And then you'll have your time established. And don't forget to give back.
So I have one final question for you,
Mhm.
Tiffany.
Sure.
What is a story that you tell yourself today, a positive story that you couldn't tell yourself, that you were just not there, you were not ready or able to tell yourself that at the start of all of this transition? So when you were in the middle of all the chaos, because some of us are in the middle of the chaos. I see you out there. You're in the messy middle of a transition, and oh, it is messy. And when you're in the messy middle, it's hard to believe that you can weather the storm and get to the other side. But I want you to remember Tiffany, because she's your example of getting to the other side. So as you are emerging on the other side, what is a story that you tell yourself that you could not tell yourself when you were in the storm, Tiffany, but you have the wisdom of the journey that you can now tell yourself that different story?
I think the biggest thing is what you brought up, which is asking for help and accepting it.
Ah,
Um, that is probably the biggest. And notice I didn't mention it. I'm glad you did because that is so key. And again, any driven individual that I've ever worked with in an organization or as a client, all of that is very difficult for us to ask for help or accept that help because we are very individualistic, entrepreneurial, and know we can get it done, but at what cost? And it's the colleagues and friends that say to you, I know you can do this. I have every faith, not a problem. I just want to make sure from a health perspective, you're not overdoing, more than what you need to do. And you have given so much. And it just happened about a week ago where someone said, you have given so much. Let us give back to you, which again,
how
just not used
beautiful.
to, not used to saying, you're right. Okay. It's okay to do that. So that, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest takeaways I would say that I've had.
I just want to share here what Gail said. Okay, as Dr. talking about the messy middle. She says, "How much fun!" So, friends, if you're in the messy middle and you feel like you're in the middle of the storm, the lightning is flashing, the thunder is rolling, the waves are cresting over your head. Take Gail's perspective and say, "Wow, what a fun ride!" Because something new is emerging, and that is true. Something new does emerge when you allow yourself to really evolve, to transform. And that's to me, and I wish in some ways I wish this was part two. If we had done the earlier one and then we were doing this one and people could see the journey that I see just in the 6-month window, Tiffany,
Mhm.
of somebody who was filled with more doubt, more uncertainty, more anxiety, to the peace that you have now.
Mhm.
And I
Oh,
think that's what makes it so terrifying is, can you find that peace or is it all going to blow up?
Exactly. And again, that piece you can only answer yourself. No one else can answer. And you just have to come to a point where you're like, you know what? I'm okay with that. Let's just move on. Even if something challenging comes up, honestly, just believe in yourself. I mentioned that earlier. Trust your instincts because you're the only one that's going to take care of you from that perspective. And you're right. I think people sometimes shy away from feeling anxious about things or feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing on this. How do I do this? Ask for help, receive the help. You have experts
Yes.
out there that are friends. You know there are.
And I will add to what you're saying. The other thing about peace for me, and this is part that I see in your journey as well, and it gets to those things. The suicide is about letting go, about knifing the internal thoughts that are holding you back, and just saying, "Death to this thought. We're just not going to let this define us anymore." And one of those is the comparative trap, and
Mhm.
of it's your business,
Yeah.
and looking at other people and saying I'm not successful because I'm not them, or everybody says I should have this much income, or I should have this many clients, or this many people in the pipeline. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and my number one message to them is build the business that you want, not the one that everybody else is telling you should have.
Mhm.
If and that's where you've gotten to. I'm okay. I want these projects that meet these criteria, that have these kind of outcomes. It doesn't have to be big and flashy. It doesn't have to be something that's going to get written up in some magazine and make me iconic. Like I'm not.
Right.
I don't care about that. That's like
Yes.
I'm not chasing that thing. I used to, when I taught gymnastics, I would get so frustrated because so many of the kids, most of them are never, ever going to even come close to competing at collegiate level, let alone being gymnasts,
Exactly.
in the Olympics, professional gymnasts. So why do we make them train so hard as if that's what they're doing? Like we take all the joy out of the sport for them in the way that we do this. And you are doing that to yourself, friend.
Mhm.
This is what Tiffany is saying to you. You get to define these things. If it is your business, you get to define them. And if you need to do the hard look in the mirror reset conversation about, am I sucking the joy out of this for myself? Because I'm trying to be an Olympian. It's something I will never have the potential to be. And do I have to be Olympic level, or can there be something else that is right for me? Define it and go after that.
I remember when I was first starting to think about all of this, and I had coffee with the girlfriend that's, pretty prominent in the community. And she said, do you really? And I thought that was great advice. And she'll probably know if she's on. But she said, do you really need to do that? Just those words. You really need to do that. And are you happy with where the things are that you're building? And I said, you know what? I am. Because I was all stressed about, oh, having this beautiful website and all sorts of things. You know what? You don't need all of it, really. Just build on the strong skills that you have. Look at your strengths, that self awareness, getting some coaching from Rita or anyone else. Very key, because knowing yourself is going to lead you to the success that you're going to have, not only in your business, but also not just professionally, but personally as well. So I just remember that conversation. I just kind of laughed and like, yeah, you're right. No, I don't. I mean, there's not really any reason other than these conventions that I think corporate America for sure, much less everyone else, puts in our heads of what success looks like, and is very different for each person. So trust that you know what success feels like for you and just move forward.
I love that. We're going to end with that. Trust your journey of alignment. Thank you, Whitney. So let's mark the date. It is July the 14th, 2026. And we are reclaiming the words professional suicide. That is no longer a bad thing, friends.
Yes.
Committing professional suicide is the strategic smart play that we are giving you permission to do so that you can let go of the stuff that you're dragging around behind you that is making you miserable, and allow you to step with grace and ease into the free space that you want to be in, of building exactly what you want.
Exactly.
Tiffany, I love this conversation. As always, it is a joy to be with you. Thank you for coming to the story I'm telling myself.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to have, had this session with you. And I love that you noticed in the last 6 months how much I have shifted, because let me tell you, folks, I was stressed to the max beginning of this year. And now I am in a much better place. So give yourself permission to do that.
Yes, yes. And come back again next week. Now, Tiffany's LinkedIn is where she'd like to connect with you. We'll have that in the show notes. So make sure that you connect with Tiffany. And if you're in this journey and you just want to talk to somebody that's a few steps ahead of you, it's a good strategy. And she's a great person, and she will set boundaries because she's getting better at setting boundaries. But she would still love to hear from you. Come back again next week. We're here every Tuesday, same time, same bat channel, and we love having you here. Thank you, Jerry. Great to see that you made it today. Thank you, Gail, and everyone else that's here today. And we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Rita.
Thanks for joining us. If you love this episode, leave us those 5 stars and be sure to share this with a friend. And if you didn't, don't worry about it. See you back here next week.